स्क्रीन शेयर कीजिए एक बारी फिर से। हेलो। हेलो। हेलो मैम, स्क्रीन शेयर।
हेलो
जी
हेलो
स्क्रीन शेयर कीजिए मैम।
सर, स्क्रीन शेयर्ड नहीं है।
नहीं,
मैं लगा
दोबारा
मैं कर।
कीजिए।
अच्छा, कर रही हूँ।
हाँ हाँ, स्क्रीन
डन।
शेयर हो गया है। ठीक
ठीक
है
है
मैम, आप क्लास स्टार्ट कर सकते हैं।
जी, थैंक यू। So, today we'll be covering our unit number 3, that is financial strategies and resource mobilization. So, in this particular chapter, what we will be covering is how a social enterprise can scale up financially. What financial strategies do they need to follow when they are thinking of scaling up their operations? I hope my screen is visible. Let me just close anything that might interrupt.
Yes, ma'am, visible is.
Okay, thank you so much. Okay. So, yes. Um okay. So what we will be covering is unit number 3. So, for example, so you are a social enterprises working for a year or so, and after a certain period of time, they might want to grow up, right? They might want to grow financially and scale up their operations. So this chapter basically focuses on what financial strategies do a social enterprise need to scale up their business. So now the objective for this chapter, the objective for this entire idea is to understand the financial strategies for a startup venture. What should be the funding options? What should be the capital structure decision? Although we have studied in a lump sum that what all financial financial resources are, from where a social enterprise can get the fundings, that we have studied in the previous chapter. But here what we will be understanding, what all the funding options do a social enterprise has, and we will study that in detail. We will also understand the capital structure decisions and the management of the early stage of financial resources. What should be the management? What capital structure decisions do we need to take? What will be the funding options? Then second is diverse funding models available for the entrepreneurs. Diverse funding models, as in what is the mix and match of the different financial options that we have that can help the social venture. So here we will understand we will understand the characteristic of each funding model which is suitable for a social venture. We will also identify uh, which financial source might be unique to which social venture idea. Then we will understand how to manage finances during scaling phase of the venture, focusing on long-term financial planning, investment strategies, resource allocation for growth, sustainable growth and impact. This is what we are going to study in this chapter. My PPT is not yet fully prepared. I was experimenting with the theme, so it is kind of funny, but I'll maybe fix it later. Okay, so the focus of any financial strategy is to maintain a balance between social goals and the financial health. A social enterprise will only grow when it has sustainable financial sustainability in the financial department, and also it has maintained a balance between a social goal. With the financial health there is a social goal. ऐसा नहीं है कि they are earning and earning, they are creating, they have more focused on financial, creating a financial health rather than creating a social impact. So both should go simultaneously. There should be a balance between both. So there are there are diversified funding sources and there are sustainable funding models that then we have cost management and efficiency, and then we have, okay, I guess there is some, mm, let me just check it with your SLM. Just give me 1 minute. I think there might be some glitch when I was experimenting with the themes for the Excel. Okay. Yes. No, it's fine. So, financial strategies in social enterprise, balancing the social goals and the with the financial health. So, the number one is there are 4 types of financial strategies that we'll be talking about. Number one is diversified funding source. Uh, Under this diversified funding source, the major focus is on diversifying funding sources, including grants, donation, impact investment, and revenue generation from sales of the goods and services. And it usually helps in reducing the risk and promotes stability. So basically, using a mix of certain funding models, funding sources, right? Then we have sustainable business model that basically focuses on business model that basically aligns with the social impact with the revenue generation. The major focus is revenue generation, but also uh, with the completion of a social impact. Then we have cost management and efficiency, which is about efficient management of operational cost without compromising any social objectives. That is the key. Cost management efficiency is basically efficiency, a management where um, all the operation costs, uh, I mean, social objective is the key, and along with fulfilling the social objectives, all the operational costs must not be compromised. And this involves streamlining all the processes using technology and some other relying support and so. Then we have is long-term financial planning, which is basically a social enterprise that needs to plan their finances with a long-term perspective, considering future scaling potential risk and need for reinvestment in the social mission. So basically, a long-term financial planning is basically thinking of the long-term perspectives, future scaling, how much do a social enterprise is planning and have potential to scale up, what is the potential risk that they might have, and and how do they reinvest back into the social mission. So all these strategies will be considered in these following 4 um, options. So like if we are looking for a diversified funding model, the social enterprise will more focus on grant donation and diversified funding sources and to eradicate all the risk and promote stability. Then there is a sustainable business model which a social enterprise can use that will help in the revenue generation for a long period of time, along with attaining the social impact. Then we have is cost management and efficiency. That means we are trying to, you know, we are doing effective management or effective day-to-day activities, and also we are not compromising at all from the social objective. That means we are what we have decided to what social impact we are striving to achieve, we are trying to achieve when we have identified that this is what we are going to fulfill. So we are keeping that in mind and doing the changes in our day-to-day life. So that is all about this effective management and of operational costs. And that is how we can streamline all the process and we can get all the support that we want. Then there is long-term social financial planning, which is all about uh, we have long-term financial planning, which is all about thinking for planning for 5 years ahead, 10 years ahead, or maybe 15 years. And for that, we will be, a social enterprise might be looking for reinvesting back into the social mission and back into the social enterprise. How can they scale their processes in the future? What are the potential risks that are involved? So, as per these four agendas, strategies can be formed. Right. Now, what is the meaning of resource mobilization? Resource mobilization is nothing but focusing on harnessing a range of resources beyond capital. So, beyond capital, what all resources can be used is all about resource mobilization. So, this is all about building a strong relationship with the community, a broader network that can open doors to the various resources. It also might help in including volunteer support, partnerships, and knowledge sharing. So, this strategic partnership and collaboration is all about collaboration with the other organization, businesses, community, government entities, and that can also provide access to the additional resources, expertise, and channel for impact. For example, the Ration Sutra we discussed that is being supported by the Ministry of Textiles in Odisha, and that helps the tribal women to get access to those machines. So this is what it is a it's connecting the dot that is helping reach out unimaginable areas, right? So people with various expertise, various resources, various channel can highly impact this strategic partnership. So collaborations helps in this resource mobilization, right? So I hope the resource mobilization is clear. Resource mobilization. Then we have is leveraging non-financial assets. It is all about mobilizing non-financial assets such as intellectual property right, expertise, brand value, which can be crucial as financial resource, because if ones know this expertise, they can be useful and they can be be asset. They can be used as an as asset anywhere. Then there is human capital development, investing in staff and volunteers through training and development, and ensure that organizations has the skills and knowledge, necessary skills and necessary knowledge to achieve its objectives. Human capital development also becomes one of a crucial element when it is about resource mobilization. Why? Because training and developing your own enterprises human capital helps in increasing their skills and knowledge, and that helps in achieving the goal efficiently. For example, nowadays people are more focused on learning AI, and companies are also focusing on employees to learn AI. And there was an article I recently come across where Google CEO of Google was asking, was he actually, there was an article about him, and he said that we promote and we push our employees to switch 60% towards AI and use as much AI they can, you know, use as much AI tools that for day-to-day life and for day-to-day activities. So this is what human capital development, unless and until the human capital of the social enterprise will not grow as per the market and as per the scenarios, as per the surroundings of the environment, there are chances that there will be no um, there will be the chances that there will be no the spurring growth as you or as a social enterprise might be expecting. Okay. So challenges and considerations. Uh, what are the challenges and considerations when it comes to social enterprises finance? Number one is balance. A balance between profitability and the social mission is very important. If it is not maintained, this might lead to the conflict. Then measuring and demonstration of social impact for attracting and retaining fundings can be a challenging and resource intensive task. Next is careful consideration and expertise when it comes to the regulations and tax implications, because then it becomes very complex and challenging. So these are some of the challenges that a social enterprise financing might face. Number one is a balance between profitability and social mission. Number two is measuring the social impact, right? And retain the funding for that social impact is challenging. And third one is there might be no such person who has expertise in might not have some expertise for this challenging task for the regulatory and tax implications when it comes to the funding resources from the government and the business activity. So these are some of the challenges. Now few of the challenges can also be that um, it it needs a holistic approach to integrate financial sustainability with the social impact that might leverage and that also leverage the diverse range of resources and nurtures a relationship between and networks for critical long-term success. So for this, adopting practices, strategic financial practices and resource mobilization is becomes very important. And you see, because while we since we want to maintain a balance between everything and we want a continuous relationship, we want to contribute into the social impact, and we need a sustainable funding resources. So to meet up all these challenges, adopting strategic financial practice becomes holistic, and innovatively using the resource mobilizing resources becomes very crucial. So now we will move towards some strategic financial practices and how and about the resource mobilization. Now, when it comes to the financial strategies for startups, now there are three types, three uh, so the analysis for the startup entrepreneurs is crucial so that informed decisions can be aligned with the business objective and operational needs. So falling under three types of financial strategies that a startup might use, a startup funding can be identified. So the number one is equity financing, number two is debt financing, number three is bootstrapping. So equity financing is all about venture capital and angel investor. Debt financing covers loans and credit lines. Number three is bootstrapping that covers self-funding and operational revenues. Moving on to the first one, that is equity financing. It is all about venture capital and angel investor. Now, equity financing, by the name of equity, we understand selling a small portion of your business to the investors in exchange of the capital, right? If you want to raise money, you will have to sell some portion of your business to the investor in exchange of some capital. Now, this is often and highly suitable for the high growth startups that needs significant capital, right? A high growth startup with a significant capital needs this. That equity financing is more suitable for such enterprises. Now, what is the advantage of enterprise? Number one is you can raise large sum of money, right? You don't need to pay any, you don't need to earn that. There is a need of repayment, but not instantly, right? Then investors often bring expertise, mentorship, and networks. And you also know if you earn profits, then you have to return back whatever you have earned, like the percentage. And if there are losses, then equity shareholders will bear the loss as well. Then investors often bring in expertise, mentorship, and network. So such investors comes with lot of market background, market experience, and their networks and their mentorship. So they bring in those resources and gives a startup channel to grow more, because if an investor is putting a money, if especially a venture capitalist or angel investor is putting in the money, they would expect higher rate of return. That is for sure. Okay. Then we have is, what are the challenges? Dilution of the ownership and control. There are chances that the ownership, there are chances, that's 100% sure that ownership will be diluted, control will be diluted. So investor will also have equal right as you have to speak in the to take decisions in your enterprise, to um, interfere more oftenly. Then pressure to deliver high growth and returns. It becomes very difficult, and it becomes very typical situation, because because when the investors will be expecting return, and that to be high return, because a venture capitalist or angel investor only puts money when they see that their money is going to be safe and they are going to get insane profits out of it. So to deliver that, a startup has to work hard. So that's the challenge. Now, what is a venture capital? Now, venture capital or a venture capitalist is a highly skilled investment banker and a true entrepreneur that and that thinks, and according to his perspective, according to the perspective of a VC, they usually invest in a startup that has a strong growth potential. The money invested in the business is venture capital, right? The capitalist is a person who invests in the enterprise. So they typically provide, it is typically provided by the investor who expect to receive higher return on their investment. So investor only invest when they see potential in your startup idea, and they expect higher returns on their investment. So it is suitable, very much suitable for a social enterprise that has high potential of growth and scalability, who are actually hoping to scale up their enterprise idea or startup idea to a next level. They see the potential. Venture capitalists see a potential. Venture capitalists also invest in the companies at various stages. It's not just the early phase, but also later on in the phases, a venture capitalist also put their money, invest in their money. So venture capital is a significant source for a social enterprise for scaling the operations and the and and reach the social impact they want to achieve. Venture capitalists bring in their expertise, industry knowledge, insights, and valuable networks that can help a social enterprise to grow and yeah, and however, the social enterprise accepting VC funding often implies that they will compromise on ownership and some level of control because VC comes in with their own ideas and they interfere. More or less, they intervene if they don't find any strategy working positively for them. So a VC expects higher return on their investment, and that creates a performance pressure for the companies, and also it might also potentially impact the social mission that might be the primary goal of a social enterprise. So these are some of the challenges when it comes to the VC funding, but it is very optimum source for the scalable options and the operations and to reach the higher impacts. Next type of investor is called angel investor. Angel investor, see, the net worth of a venture capitalist is also very high, and same the investment. The net worth of the angel investor is also very high. So you can get the money. The funding is accessible at early stages, more accessible at the early stages, along with some financial backing. Like I said, venture capitalists come with the mentorship, network advice, and their industry expertise. Same, angel investor also brings in their network access and advices and industry insights, whatever they have, whatever they can offer, right? So for social enterprise, they can leverage maximum benefit of this flexible investment terms and potential alignment with the social mission. The amount of capital investment is comparatively smaller than the venture capitalist amount, but um, also the industry experience and knowledge might vary of the in between the angel investor and the venture capitalist. It might be higher than that or maybe lower than that. And amount is comparatively smaller than the venture capitalist. Now here is a comparison table that we can, refer to. A venture capitalist is an institutional investor that includes firms specializing in startup funding. Angel investor is an individual which has net high worth, and also the net worth. The venture capitalist can invest in usually in the startup, but later on in the phases, a venture capitalist can also invest. And usually it is suitable for the early funding needs. It is suitable for the enterprise which has high growth potential and has a scalable business model. Whereas angel investor um, is an early stage social enterprise needing initial funding and many mentorship. Capital amount is typically larger investment than the angel investor, and angel investor has a small investment that they can offer. Involvement, venture capitalist is actively involved, highly involved, and it includes broad positions and strategic guidance in the social enterprise. Whereas in angel investor scenario, it varies. It can range from hands-off to active mentorship and guidance. If the intervention is needed, then angel investor will intervene. If not, then not. Then comes the expectations. Expectations is high expectations for growth and returns with performance pressure. Whereas for angel investor, it is more flexible expectation with the focus on potential over immediate returns. Advantages: large capital infusion, expertise, mentorship, and networks. Whereas for the angel investor, access to capital, valuable mentorship, flexible terms and conditions are there. What are the challenges when it comes to venture capital? Number one is ownership dilution, performance pressure, and alignment with the VC goal. So when a venture capitalist is putting in the money, they have their own goal. So then it becomes a dilemma that the social enterprise has to let go of their own organization's goal and follow the VC's goal. So that is a challenge. Then for angel investor, it is all about limited funding amount and the investors' involvement and experience might vary. It might be disrupt, it might be intervening or not be intervening. But in both the case, maybe if they intervene, that could be best for the enterprise. If they do not intervene, then it might also be not best for the enterprise. So both it's a challenge in both the scenarios. Next we have is debt financing, loan and credit lines. Now, what is debt financing? Debt financing is basically borrowed funds that needs to be repaid with the interest. So it is more suitable for the startups with a clear ability to generate cash flow to the service, to the service, uh, to for the debts. So basically, debt financing is all about borrowed funds that you have to repay it back along with the interest, and it is usually suitable for the startups that has clear vision and they have this you know clearly defined how we are going to generate, what is going to be our funding model, how we are going to generate funds, how we are going to work, and how we will generate the cash flows. And based on that cash flows, how we can repay this debt. For example, you take loan and then you say, na, like I have this much income, and based on that, I can get this much amount ka loan, and every monthly I can pay like 20,000 to the bank so that my loan can be repaid. जिससे मैंने borrow किया उसको मैं इसी हिसाब से pay कर दूंगा. So that is debt financing. You know how much you're capable of. Only that amount you can borrow, and you have a clear understanding that when I'm going to return this amount, I have to repay it back with the interest, and I have ability to generate so and so cash flow. Right. What are the advantages of debt financing? Number one, it maintains ownership and control over the business. There is no dilution. Interest payments and are often tax deductible. Challenges, it requires regular repayment, creating cash flow pressure. So regular repayments, how to generate cash flow, that can also create some pressure. But I guess running every business must have pressure, because only then things can be done, on the priority basis, things can be done. Then we have is often requires collateral and solid credit history. To get a strong loan, you might also need to have strong credit history and need to have a collateral information about it. Now, there are two forms of debt financing. One is loan and one is credit line. Now, when we talk about loans, number one is loan is a traditional form of debt financing where a lump sum amount is borrowed from a financial institution or a lender, and it is repaid back over the specific period of time with the interest to the institution. It is generally suitable for the businesses that needs capital expenditure or funding expansion projects. Like for a project, they need funds, some capital expenditure they need to do. So for that, loan works best. The advantages of loan is that it allows business to retain full ownership. There is no dilution of ownership and control. The lender does not receive equity at all. Loan can also impose the financial burdens. because you have to do the regular repayments regardless of the business's growth or profitability. For example, in a month, for example, in January you had you got you got good profits, but in February there was a loss, March was loss. So despite of these financial conditions, once you have borrowed the money, you have to repay it back. So it can create a lot of pressure. Obtaining loan often requires collateral and a solid credit history. So getting a loan, you need a collateral, you need a solid credit history, which can be challenging for a new startup, because for a startup, you should have a solid history. And if you're starting up a business, if you're starting up a social enterprise, how can you have a credit history? Because you're going to be buying it for the first time, now. So that's the challenge. Now we have a credit line. Now, credit line is more flexible than traditional loans. It allows businesses to access the funds up to certain limit and only pay the interest for the amount used. For example, you can think of it as a credit card. आपकी क्रेडिट कार्ड की लिमिट 50,000 है, आपने उसमें सिर्फ 20,000 यूज करा, यू स्टिल हैव 30,000 लेफ्ट. सो ऑल यू हैव टू डू इज यू हैव टू पे बैक 20,000 along with the interest. There is no interest on the 30,000. आपको अलॉट कर दिया but you've not used it. Credit line works on the same concept that it is very good for short term, covering any short term operational cost or any unexpected expenses. So um, it allows a safety net to the businesses, and they can tap as much as it is needed. There is no, ऐसा नहीं है कि इतना अमाउंट दे दिया तो आपको इतना अमाउंट यूज करना पड़ेगा, इतना ही मिलेगा. You can just tap in how much you need it and you can use it and repay it back as per your requirement. So without the need to reapply for loan each time funds are required. So you don't have to reapply for the loans every time. A limit is given to you, repay it back, the limit is set, right? Now, here's a comparison between loan and the credit lines. Nature of financing. Loan is the amount that is borrowed and repaid over a set period with interest. In the for credit line, it has access to the funds up to certain limit, paying interest only with the amount used. Typical use. Uh, Loan is typically used for the capital expenditures, funding expansion, one-time projects in the social enterprise. Credit lines are basically used for more day-to-day activities, operational cost, any unexpected expenses, a short-term operational cost, managing cash flow. Repayment structure for the loan is that they have to repay over a scheduled period of loan term. Credit line is flexible. You only have to pay what is used, and it usually requiring periodic payments. Ownership impact, there is no dilution. Same here for the credit line, no dilution, retains full ownership and full control for both. Since it is a debt financing, so there is no impact on the ownership. Advantages for loan is that it is predictable, a repayment schedule. It is suitable for large specific investments in social venture. Then comes credit line, flexibility in usage, ideal for short-term financial needs for social enterprise. What are the challenges? Regular repayment creates a pressure, right? Regardless of the business profitability, one has to do the regular repayments, and it also needs credit worthiness and collateral, and also it creates a lot of pressure. Credit line is all about it requires disciplined financial management. One must has financial literacy. They must have disciplined financial management, that they have to pay back what they have taken in time, and they should know which expense needs to be covered up in the credit line and which not, right? So it is potential over reliance leading to financial strain. So if you overly rely on that, so it can create a financial stress. third type of funding strategy can be bootstrapping. It is a self-funding and operational revenue. Now, for self-funding and operational revenue, so what is this? These are two types of bootstrapping uh, strategies. Now, what is bootstrapping? It basically involves using personal saving or operational revenues to finance the business. It is suitable for the entrepreneurs who wish to maintain full control and for businesses with the lower initial capital requirement. So initially they might work with the lower capital requirements, but they need to maintain full control and have full control over the business. And this model, this strategy involves using the personal savings and the or maybe operational revenues को ही दोबारा businesses में use करना. Now, what is the advantage of bootstrapping? It allows full control and ownership retention. Number second is it avoids interest payments and investors' expectations. Then is challenge. Now, it is limited by entrepreneurs' personal financial resources, and it can also slow down businesses' growth due to limited capital. So if you want to start with a lower initial capital, it might also slow up the process of scaling up. Then we have is characteristics for bootstrapping in social enterprise, sorry. Characteristics for bootstrapping. Bootstrapping is a significant strategy in the financial landscape of social enterprise. It involves using personal savings, assets, and operational revenues to fund and grow the business. Now, this approach is particularly relevant for the social enterprise when emphasis on self-reliance or a prudent resource management. It's basically viable for the early stage of development. There are two types of bootstrapping, self-funding and operational revenue. Self-funding is basically you are using your own money, collecting money from your parents or friends and family and putting it into the business for the initial operations. That is self-funding. Then we have is operational revenue, which is all about reinvesting the income that you've generated from the business activities back into the enterprise to fuel the growth and further social mission. Now, what is the advantage and challenge of a bootstrapping? Number one is bootstrapping basically allows social entrepreneurs to maintain a full control. That's the advantage. It fosters a culture of financial discipline, sustainability. It also avoids any complexities and obligations that are associated with financing, external financing, basically. Then the growth of social enterprise is limited. I guess this part is limitations, this part is challenges, this part is advantages. I think I'll work on this PPT and make it more clear. The growth of the social enterprise is limited by the entrepreneur's financial capacity, which leads to the slower scaling. If you do not have more funds and if you are self-reliant on the money that you have, जो भी थोड़ा बहुत पैसा है, then you cannot expect a highly scalable startup in the beginning. It will be slow, right? It is inherent personal financial risk. There are chances that you might end up with the personal financial risk, right? Then limited resources may restrict the ability to capitalize on market opportunities quickly. If you have limited resources, there are also chances that you might not be able to capitalize the market opportunities that you expect to capture. Now, what are the strategies to effectively implement or use bootstrapping? Number one is adopt a lean operation approach, which is basically minimize all the expenses and maximize the use of all the resources that are available. So that's a lean operation approach. Then we have is reinvesting profits back into the business is key for bootstrapping. Building a loyal customer base ensures a steady revenue income. So revenue flow. So that is very important. So bootstrapped enterprises के लिए loyal customer base होना बहुत जरूरी है. प्रॉफिट्स को दोबारा अपने एंटरप्राइज में री इन्वेस्ट करना बहुत जरूरी है एंड फॉलो अ लीन ऑपरेशन अप्रोच दैट मीन्स खर्चा कम और जो आपके पास रिसोर्सेज है उनका मैक्सिमाइज यूसेज आपको करना राइट सो दीज आर सम ऑफ द effective strategies. Now bootstrapping is this is a tabular form of information that you can check. So for bootstrapping is using personal saving assets or operational revenues to finance your own business and avoid any external reliance, right? Only use internal resource and use it optimally. Advantages: you retain all the full control and ownership. It encourages the social growth and financial disciplines and also avoid interest or equity cost. Next is challenge. It is limited by the entrepreneur's financial capacity and can also result in slower growth, involves personal risk, financial risk. Then we have is strategies. You can follow lean operation research, reinvest back all the profits back into the business, build loyal customer, self-reliance, and there was the other one, operational revenues. So basically, it covers everything. Now, analysis of various aspects of funding model. How do we analyze the, the various aspect of a funding model? Number one is blended finance. Here we are innovatively combining the funds. So blended finance is as an approach that combines different forms of public and private funds that are used to reduce any financial investment risk and increase the potential of for the social impact. So blended finance basically where we are using private and public funds to reduce any such investment risk. Okay? It often involves a mix of grants, debts, and equity to make projects feasible that might otherwise be too risky and not profitable enough for traditional investors. So it basically requires it's a mix of grants and equity and debt, right? Advantage of blended finance is that there is number one is that there is no dependence on only one particular type of funding, right? So here the organization tries to leverage the strength of various funding resources. It also attracts the broader range of investors by mitigating the risk and enhancing potential impacts. The challenge is structuring blended finance arrangements that can be complex and time consuming. Balancing the interest and expectations of diverse funding parties requires careful negotiation and management. Next we have is government subsidies and incentives, which is policy-driven support, which is usually grants that we studied earlier. Subsidies and incentives provided by the government are basically designed to support initiatives that are initiatives in the key sectors like health, education, and sustainability energy. Usually government backup by providing the grants. This can also include tax break, direct financial subsidies, or any other supportive measures. What are the advantages? That your social objective the objective of your social enterprise must be aligned with the public policy goals and also might have and potentially provide a stable funding source for the stable funding source, and it can also make socially beneficial projects more financially viable. What are the challenges? It subjects to change in political climates and policy priorities, often come with specific compliance requirement and performance benchmarks. Then third is community-based financing, which is all about local engagement and investment. This approach basically involves raising funds directly from the community, which can include local investment models, community shares, or cooperative funding structures. It also emphasizes direct community involvement and investments in the social enterprises mission. Community based, it's basically all about you know c- a funding that you can get from the community that we studied in the previous chapter, which was all about raising the funds through such platforms जो हमने देखा था. There were some platforms through which you can put in the idea, and community people looking for that, if they find that appealing, then you can raise the funds from the public, right? Who all are interested in the cause, and you don't need to repay it back. So that is a community-based financing, and we can add on, right? Advantages is it deepens the community engagement and builds a loyal base for local support. It also ensures that enterprises activities are closely aligned with the community needs and the value. What are the challenges? Limited terms. It is limited in terms. It also needs a loyal customer base of local support. It ensures that the enterprises activities are closely aligned with the community needs and values. What are the challenges? It is limited in terms of scaling, because you might not raise as much funding that you might get from a venture capitalist or an angel investor. So the scaling can be limited. It might also demand significant efforts in building and maintaining strong community relationships. Fourth is PRIs, which is program related investment. It's a philanthropic funding with a return. PRI is basically made investments that are made by the foundations in activities for example, for their charitable goals, expecting repayments, but also often on more favorable terms than the commercial markets. These are form of low cost interest loans and equity investments or any other financial instruments that are low in the interest rates. It offers a capital to potentially lower cost compared to the commercial lending. It also aligns the investments with the philanthropic goals of foundations. One of the challenge is that availability of PRI is limited. There is a criteria that needs to be met. There are specific eligibility that needs to be met. Then we have is requires alignment with the particular mission. That then should be a alignment of the social mission and this PRI model, and for the funding resources. For a blended finance, a good example could be a solar energy social enterprise that is combining government grants, private investments, and donations from the large-scale installation projects. Government subsidy initiative could be a health-focused social venture receiving tax breaks and direct subsidies for developing affordable healthcare solutions in the undeserved regions. Uh, Underserved regions. Then we have is community-based financing, a cooperative model through which capital can be raised. PRI is the could be environmental non-profit receiving low interest loan from a foundation to support reforestation efforts. So these are some of the examples to justify what all these financing models are, I guess. Okay. So strategic financial management in scaling ventures. What all financial management can be done to scale up the ventures? So basically, when a social enterprise starts growing or are into a scaling phase, they are trying to manage money and that managing money becomes more difficult, right? So it is all about how to manage money. So number one is scaling phase. It's a bit light, but I'll make sure I'll rechange this slide so the color schemes are proper. So the scaling phase is what? What do we need to understand when we are talking about the strategic financial management in the scaling venture? This one liner is this one liner can explain this one liner can explain, yes, that in the growing phase, in the scaling phase, managing money becomes difficult. But then what is a scaling phase? Now, scaling phase is basically when a business is expanding, serving more people, entering the new markets, and increasing operations. That is the scaling phase. Why financial management is important when it comes to the social venture and scaling phase? It is important because enterprise must carefully manage money, profits, or the cost, growth, social impact, and all three must be balanced together. Then what makes it complex is more growth is equals to more expenses, more impact, that also be sometimes less profit, and to ensure that business do not lose the money while helping the social cause or reaching a social impact, strategic financial management becomes very important. So it is all about planning and using money smartly so that the business grows, stays financially stable, and it also continues achieving its social missions. So what is scaling phase? We understand why financial management is important. We also understood that. What is the challenge when it comes to scaling phase and financial management? We also understood that. And then what is strategic financial management? It actually means managing money so that the business grows, so that the financial stability is maintained, and along with the social mission is also achieved. So that is why strategic financial management and scaling venture is very important. Financial management is important. So, okay, this is very light, so I cannot even read that. I'll just give me 1 minute. I'll just change it so that I can tell you what this is all about. I'll just do this black. Okay. Okay. So during scaling, social enterprise must carefully manage finances that belongs to that balances the growth, sustainability, and social impact. Okay, more or less what we just studied in the strategic financial management. Now, financial management in the scaling venture focuses on capital allocation and resource optimization, financial planning and forecasting, risk management in social impact context, performance monitoring for sustainable growth, balancing few financial and social goals, stakeholder communities, and engagement. I think it will be too soon for to just jump in here because this PPT is not complete yet because we have B explanations for this particular slide. So I'll just quickly switch on to your SLM for that. We just covered all this. We covered this as well. Okay, here we were talking about. Okay, capital allocation and resource optimization. Now, capital allocation and resource optimization, basically it focuses on effective use of funds and sourcing the capital growth. When we talk about effective use of funds, that means we are trying to make sure that we are allocating the capital efficiently so that enterprise can scale. The decisions where to invest, how much to invest, and what will be the technology, what will be the human resource required. Figuring out all that is very important because it all requires money, right? Understanding the cost benefit ratio of each investment, it is very crucial to maximize the impact and ensure the financial prudence. Then sourcing the growth capital. Growth capital is basically all about scaling requirements for a strategic approach, which balances the need for additional capital with maintaining the enterprise's social mission. So it basically focuses on um, implementing whatever the financing source, but you know, but with the focus of you know scaling the operations, or a best source for the capital, best source of capital for the scaling. That is very important. Selecting a right funding source that can help, that aligns with the enterprise's idea, value, objectives, and also will help in the scalability of the enterprise. Then we have is financial planning and forecasting. For this financial management, one has to do strategic financial planning. They need to set some long-term and short-term goals, develop a roadmap, and try to achieve that, right? So whichever unique blend of social objectives, business model, or enterprise is using, that needs to be um, considered in the while thinking of a financial management. We have to consider that in the strategic financial planning. Accurate financial forecasting really helps in understanding the future needs and informing decisions on investments. That is very important. Then is risk management in social impact context or mitigating risk. Now, when we are planning for the future, it is not possible that there will be no risk, right? So to factor in all those risks, the social enterprise needs to to include all the market risk, impact risk, and operational risk when they are doing the financial planning, right? Then we have is performance monitoring for sustainable growth. So basically, here we will be doing data driven insights, regularly monitoring our financial performances, what we have achieved, what we decided, and what we have achieved till now. What are the key performance indicators that should reflect both financial health and the social impact matrix? Analyzing how much financial data in the context of social impact provides the insight which are necessary for decision making and strategic adjustments in case there is any such issues we identify. We need to make sure that those issues or those financial data can be covered it and considered while formulating any decisions, right? Then we have balancing social, financial and social goals. When we talk about balancing financial and social goals, it is all about sustainability, sustainable growth and impact, because this is one of the biggest challenge when it comes to social enterprise, maintaining the balance between profit and the social impact. So financial strategies must be crafted in such a way that this balance is maintained, right? And it also ensures the balance should be and the balance should have the holistic view, the enterprise's performance, considering both financial returns and the impact outcomes, is very crucial. Then we have a stakeholder communication and engagement. Maintaining stakeholders' relationship is very important. Effective communication with stakeholders including funders, beneficiaries, and community partners is vital. Transparency about the financial status, challenges, and growth plans really helps in building the trust. So, communicating all the activities that you're doing with the community engagement or the stakeholder engagement becomes very crucial, because then any enterprise's trajectory can be overcome with the help of the community trust and the stakeholders' expectations. Then we have is so this is the example of this. So only this much portion was left for the in your PPT. Rest was all covered. For the example of capital allocation, it could be a social enterprise specializing in renewable energy, allocating funds for research and development and market expansion. Financial planning and forecasting is it's all about an education focused non-profit developing 5-year financial plan, including revenue projects for grants and fundraising events. Risk management, healthcare social enterprise diversifying its funding sources uh, uh, to mitigate financial risk by associating with the government policy changes. Then performance monitoring is all about reviewing the financial matrix, social media, social impact datas, and you know, putting in all and doing the controlling, however the gap needs to be fulfilled, taking the corrective measures and fulfilling those gaps, balancing financial and social goals, maybe a fair trade organization organizing the growth strategy and its mission to support the local artisans where while ensuring profitability. A stakeholder communication could be social enterprise communicating with the local communities and investors through transparent reporting and regular impact updates. This is entire unit number 3 done today. Let me just see if I can start with the unit number 4. I think that is going to be the last unit. No, there is one more unit. The total 5 units. I'll see how much this PPT is made. Now, chapter number 4 is all about strategies for growth, scaling, and impact in social enterprise. So here we will be understanding what all strategies can be used for growth, scaling, and impact. Now, when we talk about scaling strategies for social enterprise, it is all about scaling within the social enterprise that represents all the strategic efforts that has been put to expand the reach and meet the social impact for the social impact, and the primary focus is social impact. Rest comes later, but the primary focus is to reach the social impact. Now, what are the theoretical foundations of scaling when it comes? So one is diffusion of innovation. The number two is social replication. Number 3 is franchising model. Now, diffusion of innovation is basically this theory is popularized and um, invented by Everett Rogers, that explains how new ideas, practices, or products spread within a society or from one society to the other. So, diffusion is basically when diffusion is something in the plain basic English language. Diffusion means that um, something is mixed around, or it has been spread around. So diffusion is basically spreading the idea or practice from one society to the other or one country to the other. So in this context, social enterprise involves understanding how social innovation can gain traction, attraction, and also can be adopted across wider communities or regions. Next theory is social replication. That means successfully replicating a social enterprise model from one location or one context to the other, right? Adapting the same model that suits the local needs and conditions while preserving the core element can be exactly replicated to the other local region, local area, or to the conditions, certain conditions where that model fulfills. So this is the core element for preserving the original model successful. Then is franchising model. Through franchise, uh, certain commercial sectors can be the borrowing from the commercial sectors can also help in creating a system that can lead to the replication of social enterprise from in different locations. So these are some of the theoretical backgrounds when we talk about the scaling. In the earlier chapter, we studied financial planning. We understood what is why financial management is important. We understood what are the types of funding models that an organization can use to scale up the business. Here we are trying to understand how scaling can be done. Financial scaling, we understood how we can financially, use financial inputs to scale the business. But in this chapter, we are going to study about in general scaling. So when we talk about the diffusion of innovation or social replication or franchising model, these all are type of these are all theoretical foundations for scaling. Diffusion of innovation, for example, people in the Western countries using AI, and now India is also using AI. So that is diffusion of innovation. Social replication is, for example, a model, a business social enterprise model is being used in Delhi for slum areas for girl education. Same can be used in some other state or another state or another region with the slum area with the girl child education, right? So if one thing has been done, the same can be followed in the other areas as well. So that is also part of scaling. Then franchising model, the one model that has been, you know, um, one type of model that has been used can also be used by the others. So that is franchising that we know of. Okay, this is more. Okay, fine. I'll just do it in the presentation model. Okay. Now, what are the examples? Diffusion of innovation. The example could be tech-based literacy program, spreading innovative digital literacy tools to various communities, adapting to local language and cultural context. Social replication could be clear water initiatives, replicating successful clean water projects in different geographical areas, tailoring solutions to the local water quality issues. Then there is franchising model, a health awareness campaign that focus on implementing a standardized health awareness model across various regions, maintaining core content while adapting delivery methods to the local needs. Unique aspect of scaling in social enterprise. Now, what are the unique aspects when it comes to scaling in social enterprise? Number one is impact focused growth. Number two is balanced approach. Number three is adapting to change. Right. So when it comes to impact focused growth in the social sector, scaling is highly fundamental to increase any positive changes to, to deliver the positive change in the social and environment, social in the society and the environment. So this could mean reaching more beneficiaries, right? You are trying to focus on the impact and growing it further. You are trying to address, a lot of social issues, expanding to the new geographical locations. Primary measure for success in scaling is the extent to which the enterprise can amplify its social impact. Then is balanced approach. Balanced approach means the financial matrix and the social metrics should be balanced. Then is adapting to challenge. In case there is any challenge, then any new challenge arise in the environment with the limited resources, the scaling should be in such a way that any obstacle can be overcome with the innovative solution. So such as leveraging community resources, forming strategic partnership, and finding creative ways to maximize the impact with minimal resources. Now, strategic considerations for scaling in social enterprise. What all strategic consideration we need to take care when we are trying to scale the social enterprise? Number one is mission alignment. When we talk about the mission alignment, it means that we need to ensure that strategies for scaling remains true to the social enterprise's core mission. For example, if social enterprises' mission is to provide sustainable energy solutions, the scaling efforts might also focus on expanding into the regions which has lack of access to the clean energy rather than just making a profitable business. One of the key example is Resham Sutra as well. Then there is stakeholders engagement. It is very important and very crucial for the stakeholders to engage beneficiaries, funders, employees, community members to involve in the social enterprise. This tells that your stakeholders are supporting you and they can provide you invaluable insights to give you direction and can also help you understand how to scale, right? So application could be conducting community, or instead of application, you can consider this as example. Example, conducting community forums and survey to gather feedback on how expansion can best serve the needs of beneficiaries, or involving local leaders in planning expansion strategies. Then we have is resource management. Resource management, what does it mean? Resource management means that both the financial and human resources are crucially used for the social scaling, for the successful scaling. This includes strategic sourcing of capital, effective allocation of resources, and ensuring the growth is financially sustainable. For example, developing a business model that balances investments in the growth of operational sustainability and training staff to take on new roles as the enterprises grows. Then comes impact measurement. Then comes impact measurement, utilizing robust tools and methods to measure the social impact, particularly as the enterprises scales. This helps ensure that growth translates into the increased social value rather than just the financial expansion. So impact measurement is basically you've set some KPIs to measure the impact, the social impact, and you're measuring that social impact. For example, impact measurement framework like social return on investment, or using data analytics to track and assess the effectiveness of expanded services or products. Now, there are few examples, more examples. Strategic consideration for mission alignment. A good example could be eco-friendly product expansion, which is a social enterprise that produces sustainable products, expands its range, ensure new product adhere to the same environmental standards. Stakeholders engagement is community-based health program. It For example, a health-focused social enterprise involving local communities in deciding which healthcare services to expand in that local area that needs. Resource management is financial model for education NGO. This is an educational NGO that helps in developing financial model that balances cost of new program development with a sustainable growth revenue streams. Then comes the impact measurement, where impact analysis for clean water projects is done. A social enterprise focusing on clean water access using data analytics to assess the impact of new water purification installations in the different regions. What are the challenges when it comes to scaling the social enterprise? Number one challenge is maintaining the mission's integrity, balancing again financial and social goals, managing increased operational complexity. If you scale the operations from one place to the other and third and fourth and fifth, the operation becomes complex. So that increasing operations complexity is one of the challenge. Building and maintaining stakeholders trust, it is also crucial and challenging yet. Securing adequate funding, ensuring impact scalability, that your impact is also scalable as along with your social enterprise scaling. Then adapting to the new markets or geographics, it is very important that your social enterprise is flexible and adapts to the new markets and the geographics. Human resource challenges. There might be a lot of human resources. If you go and expand into different regions, you will get human resources. You will get the human the capital different and according to that area. So the human resource also becomes a challenge. Measuring and evaluating the impact is also one of the challenge because social impact को measure करने के लिए ऐसा कोई matrix nahi hai. People do sustainability reporting, people do environmental auditing, but there is no such matrix. For example, when we say debt ratio should be 2:1, that tells this. तो ऐसा debt equity ratio should be 2:1. तो ऐसा कुछ matrix हमारा social impact को measure करने के लिए नहीं है. It's more of a qualitative and a quantitative aspect, but majorly it's a qualitative and then later on it can be done through quantitative. But yes, that aspect cannot be the matrix. Setting a matrix is very important. There is no universal matrix set by some agency, some organization like that. Okay. So this I have started with a unit number 4. I don't think so.
4
I
मैम
should move. Huh?
4 यूनिट है ना लास्ट टाइम तो थर्ड फर्स्ट और सेकंड कराया था ना
Third and fourth. All I'm
Yes.
saying is I don't think so. I should move any more further. Or shall I just complete? क्योंकि unit number 1, 2 were kind of lengthy. मतलब they had some like lengthy topics, but 3, 4, 5 थोड़े छोटे छोटे chapters है तो वो बहुत जल्दी जल्दी खत्म हो जाते हैं. So that's my
Okay,
concern.
ma'am.
Shall I just cover up entire unit number 3, 4 also? या जितना भी हो पाएगा, or just let's see what do we do. We done here. We did this. मिशन इंटेग्रिटी ये सब हमने कर लिया है, ये भी कर लिया है. परफॉर्मेंस एंड इम्प्लीकेशन मेजरमेंट्स, प्रॉफिट एंड नॉन प्रॉफिट मेजर्स. ओके, so I guess we will do this from in the next class. I just don't want to,
ओके मैम
है ना, I will
नेक्स्ट क्लास
complete this in
वैसे
the
यूनिट मैम
next
से कम
class.
है ना
हाँ जी,
मैम यूनिट कम है ना इसमें मैम सब्जेक्ट में मैम यूनिट तो कम है ना
हाँ, only 5 units. You
यस
just
5
have
यूनिट है
5
मैम
units
मैम
and they are not even that lengthy. Unit number 5 is also, I think in the next class we'll be able to complete our unit number 4 and maybe also complete unit number 5, and if not then at least start with unit number 5.
ऑफ कोर्स मैम श्योर
Okay. Okay, then in case of any doubt, please reach out to me. I will share the PPT once it is completed. थोड़ा सा portion रहता है, and I just want to make it more easier for you to understand and add in lot of examples. And you know, थोड़ा सा I feel that it is still complex. I just want to make it more easier for you to understand. I will share once it is done.
मैम थर्ड यूनिट हो गई थी कंप्लीट मैम थर्ड की तो कर दो आप
थर्ड यूनिट
Third
की
unit.
PPT थोड़ी सी रहती है एंड में, थोड़ी सी. I'll just do
Okay,
that and
ma'am.
share it with
Okay,
you.
ma'am. Next time.
ठीक है?
Thank you so much, ma'am, for great session.
Oh, thank you so much for attending.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, okay.